Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Goosebumps HorrorTown playthrough. This is going to be the reveal for Event 10. And yes, we've gone so long that we are finally in the double digits, so hooray for that. And it's funny that we're celebrating this milestone on the month where it's most associated with Goosebumps the most. Halloween! So before I go in depth and tell you exactly what this event is going to be coming up, let's go back a year ago into my previous walkthrough, which is that of the third event, Haunted Halloween. Now, the Haunted Halloween was actually based on the movie of the same name that year that came out. It was interesting for the most part. The story was loosely based off of the movie, but it's slightly changed for the book series, not the book series, but the game, to make sense with the source material that we have. But yeah, we got introduced to a few new characters and a bunch of interesting items, and this was by far, to me and everyone else, the best event that they pulled off. And ever since then, a lot of events haven't really come close to that milestone. They've kind of came close, but not so much. Now, at the time, as you can notice watching these videos, my editing and stuff has gotten improved every year. During the Haunted Halloween event, I didn't really make a review, or kind of did, but not really that great. But I'll show you this here. This was the review I kind of did with, I kind of read up quickly for this event, and you get the good idea of what was, to me anyways, what I thought was great, and what probably should have been changed, but that's neither here or there. But yeah, it's interesting how we go from one event here to another event, and this is interesting because before we started this event, it was somewhat intriguing because, and while this was going on, we were kind of wondering where the update was, because we knew the next update was going to be Halloween oriented, right? That's a no-brainer. But last year we got it on the 11th of October, and it was coming closer to Halloween, so then we're like, so are we getting it? Yeah, no, maybe? Like, I can't really say a whole lot yet, but what I will say is that there is someone now who's managing the social media pages, and they've been doing a great job with kind of interacting and giving up interesting little art for the game. And one of the things they posted was this image here of Slappy, which says this:
Would you like the bear surprise this town this October? Maybe a party where everyone can have some truly fun.
Yeah, so right there you're kind of wondering, huh, really? Interesting. It makes you wonder what they are going to do, because with the Halloween, it could be anything. RL made lots of books with Halloween in it, so it's not like out of the question that it could be any book you can think of, right? However, that all changed when, in October 21st, the Facebook page sent out this image. And the quote that they sent was this: "What if we bring you a place where you can enter all excited, but you'll never truly escape?" And you're looking at this, and you immediately know exactly what that silhouette is, because it's the most iconic thing you can think of. And sure enough, we got the reveal for this year's Halloween event, which is HorrorLand Carnival. That's right, HorrorLand is in the game. Kinda. It's not really fully HorrorLand, it's a HorrorLand Carnival, so this is like a little appetizer to HorrorLand in the future that might come, because HorrorLand is a big property. How big, you might be saying? Well, it was big enough that when R.L. Stine came back to Goosebumps, the first series that he kind of announced was that to be HorrorLand, which was a 12-book series, or planned series, followed by 12 classic reprints, which told a narrative of bringing back some old classics and bringing new ones, and then telling a whole story narrative within HorrorLand. So how those stories work was that you'd read the story, and then part of that story in the end will be that these characters that you read got tickets to go to HorrorLand. And then it kind of pieces together a bigger story overall. So although these are like little anthologies, they all connect at the end. And it shows no purpose, and you actually get to see the ending with the last 3 books that they did here. And it's really interesting read. I remember reading these when they first came out because I was kind of excited to see I was excited to see Goosebumps come back again, and ever since then they've been kind of going strong, which I'm kind of happy with, because if it wasn't, we'd probably never gotten this game and I'd never be where I am today. So, you would probably be expected to me to talk about HorrorLand because it's mentioned in the name. However, I'm not going to, because honestly, you might think, despite it having HorrorLand in the title, and we have the horrors, which are these creatures that run the place, this is not really HorrorLand like One Day at HorrorLand. No, this right here is actually based off of a book in the HorrorLand series called Horrors at Chiller's House. And this is where that one character off the side is there. That is Jonathan Chiller. He is the new character in this game. So what's the deal with him, and like what's going on here? Well, remember when I said that the book had originally 12 books planned and then that's it? Well, it did so well that Scholastic ordered some more books, and because of this came to what is known as the Chiller Saga. And the gimmick of this one would be that these kids come to HorrorTown and is given an opportunity to get a souvenir. And with these souvenirs, they're allowed to take anything from this guy's shop with a little horror minifigure and say that you don't have to pay, but you will be paying back in some form. And of course, they bring these items back home, and that's when the whole Goosebumps story comes into play. And then it ends with him, with the kids and others coming back to the house about to pay their dues. And just to give you some clarifications, originally there was supposed to be 12 books, but with the Chiller Saga, it brought it up to 19 altogether. So that is 7 new books into the series, which is kind of surreal to think about. And of course, as we all know, it kind of moved on with other stuff, but I won't talk much about those series until we get closer to any update releases with any of those future installments in mind. But for now, we're going to be taking a look at the Horrors at Chiller House and what that's all about. So, you get all these 7 kids, or you get these 6 kids who had to deal with Chiller, and at the end of the day, they get sent back to his shop, in which they want to play a little game. This game is him doing a hunt of sorts, where it kind of implements that one story where the kids have to run in HorrorLand to try not to get hunted by Chiller. And it's interesting because he has somewhat of a tragic backstory, because during the 1960s, when he was growing up, he was very closed in his house because of his mother, and because of the fact that she thought he was very special, and decided to keep him home instead of actually being with the kids of his peers. What I forgot to mention also, by the way, is the fact that most of the songs you've been hearing is actually based off of the HorrorLand soundtrack that was in the website game that they used to have. Oh yeah, that they had a website game, by the way, at some point. So not only were there video games based on the HorrorLand property, but they also had like other stuff too. So HorrorLand is very iconic. It's probably, if you say anything to anybody to name a like 5 Goosebump books, guarantee you one of them is going to be One Day at HorrorLand. It's that iconic. Anyways, back to the story. So Chiller grew up into the fact that he was kind of closed, a mama's boy in a sense because of his mom. And his father was more of a hunter, and he kind of looked down on his son because he wanted his son to be a man, alright? So sure enough, he grows up, and he ends up actually being very closed, and came to the point where his only friends were actually that of his figures, the horrors, which are, by the way, all different entities that he pretends to dress up as, which the kids actually end up doing. Fun fact, there is actually one of the horror friends he has was called Murder the Clown, and it's not to be confused with the Murder the Clown we know of Theodore. So there you go, that's something to note for Theo. Anyways, long story short, the kids got away. He ends up doing the same thing again. So he's basically a shop owner who makes you kind of pay in the sense of him hunting you down, I guess, as a scavenger hunt of sorts to try to escape from HorrorLand. And it's kind of implying that he's the puppet master behind HorrorLand as a whole genre, because outside of him, there's no real ownership of HorrorLand. It seems like he's probably the closest you're gonna get as an actual owner of the property. So a lot of people kind of gravitate to the fact that maybe Jonathan Chiller is the owner to HorrorLand, but probably not. There's a bunch of stuff here too. Some fun facts about horrors. Although they look like creepy ogres, they're actually inflatable inanimate object characters. And the reason I say inflatable is because in HorrorLand there's one rule where you do not pinch a horror. Why? Well, here you go. Yep, they fart themselves to death. No, they deflate basically, and it's real interesting. I'm hoping this comes back fully so I can actually talk more about HorrorLand as a whole, but I'm going to focus mostly on this book. And the reason I'm going to focus in on this book is because it's obvious to me after playing this event that this is heavily based off this book a lot from this character. You'll see exactly, but it's interesting how they're using this as an actual part of the Halloween. It would have been interesting to actually see Carly Beth actually be part of the Haunted Mask, but we didn't get to see her again, so I don't know what's going on with her. I'm hoping she comes back permanently, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. But yeah, some fun facts with the Chiller house in the Goosebumps series. Jonathan Chiller is described to be kind of like imagine Benjamin Franklin. That's how they described it here. The cover art to the series is by Brandon, and as you can notice that there is Slappy down there. Despite being mentioned by name, he's not in this book at all. So yeah, the reason he's there is because one of the books, the last book that was released was Slappy New Year. You're probably familiar with that from last year, or from this year. And all that stuff. And the main antagonist there, or the main protagonist, I should say, in there, was a guy by the name Ray Gordon, and he's actually the narrator for that story, or this story, the Chiller House, which is interesting. The actual art that was used by Brandon was mirrored for the original art. Unfortunately, because this was like during the newer generations, there's no funny different altercations when it comes to the international release, so there's no point showing you. The only reason I showed you the international was because unique artwork and stuff to share, but nothing really here. Anyways, Jonathan Chiller himself, I think I've basically talked a whole lot that I can probably talk about with him, mostly. It's funny how they are saying that this is the Carnival of Horrors, because there was 2 books that was a Give Yourself Goosebumps called Escape from Carnival of Horrors, and then there was another one, a sequel book called Return to Carnival of Horrors. I don't think that was intentional, but that was something I ended up finding out too, so there's a lot. I'm starting to rediscover things. One thing before I go, I noticed that they are using some of the old Halloween assets in that logo there, and the HorrorLand logo is actually from the HorrorLand series books, not so much the other thing. So interesting, you can tell that this was heavily focused on one book in particular, but that's it there. Actually, hold on. No. Before we wrap up, I just realized the update when it popped up. Let me read you the little email they sent me during this, so you get a good idea of what they have in mind. The HorrorLand Carnival and Goosebumps. Join us in our favorite and spookiest time of the year. The Carnival of Horrors come to HorrorTown just in time for Halloween. But there's something about this owner that will chill everyone's hearts. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly welcome you to HorrorLand. And let's talk about the sneak peeks that they have here. So, there will be one new character, which is Jonathan Schiller, which I talked about. There'll be 15 new items to collect and craft, such as the witch costume, mummy's costume, and the ghost costume. Okay. 10 new animations like Chiller's dancing. Oh, I can't wait to show you that one. And fortune reading. And 20 new buildings such as the Crocodile Pond, the Guillotine Ride, and the Fortune Wheel. Already I'm reading these stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. So yeah, that's about it. I forgot, sorry about that. Now it's over. Now it's officially over. I know I tease this a lot, so I'm going to end it right now. I will be seeing you in part 1, and hopefully you'll enjoy this little update as much as I have. And there's some interesting stuff to follow. So with that in mind, thanks for watching. Let me know down below what you thought. And hope to see you in part 1. Until then, bye.